children, people of all kinds, whoever you are, everyone's welcome to this dojo. It's your boy Peter here, aka Peter Freako 10, baby. Bring you guys an episode of the Movie Review Show, where the good movies are always reviewed. Alright, back into our movie review. And today, we're heading back to the wonderful world of Disney, as we're talking about a Disney movie. And it's not any ordinary Disney film. This is one that when I first heard about it, I never thought it would be an area that they would ever go to. And it's one that I found unique. Also, another reason why this film was on my radar was because it had this huge uproar about the uniqueness of its animation. It was in the marketing a lot, and the behind the scenes kind of made that clear of what they were going for. And it was really beyond anything I'd ever seen in a film like this, especially with something like animation and working with CGI. And what film is that, you may be asking? That film is none other than Disney's Dinosaur, or just Dinosaur, however you want to call it. But just because dinosaurs are a hot topic in the eyes of kids, does that make it a good movie? Well, grab your time machines and let's head back to prehistoric times as we talk Disney's Dinosaur. Now, Disney's Dinosaur, however you want to call it, was a film made in the year 2000. It's directed by a guy named Ralph Zondag. Now, this is a guy who's mostly worked in the animation department on the Care Bears movie, An American Tail, The Land Before Time, and even the original All Dogs Go to Heaven. The only directing credit he has before this, surprisingly, was he was one of the directors of We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. So, yeah, he was with Emblem for a bit. The other director was Eric Leighton, who before this worked as an animation supervisor on The Nightmare Before Christmas and did uncredited work on James and the Giant Peach. The one thing, though, that's interesting about this movie is that the production itself harkens all the way back to the 80s. And doesn't start at Disney, but rather in the most unexpected of places, with Phil Tippett. Phil Tippett is a special effects artist for films like the Star Wars trilogy, RoboCop 1 and 2, Howard the Duck, Willow, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He was just working on the production of RoboCop as they were hard at work on trying to get a particular effect right, that along with Paul Verhoeven. And they were coming up with ideas for future projects. One of them was an idea to make a stop-motion dinosaur film, being that he had already had history in that area, being that he had directed Prehistoric Beast and the CBS documentary, which surprisingly named Dinosaur, which relied a lot on stop motion, and they wanted to put that into a film. Paul liked this idea and jumped at the chance to make the film, with the original intention being that it was going to be a more dark and violent film, more in line with Paul's work. There was also going to be a little bit of a nature documentary angle to it, drawing influence from 1953 Shane, and they decided to pitch their ideas to Walt Disney Pictures, who they greenlit the film and brought on writer Walon Green of The Wild Bunch and The Sorcerer to pen the script. However, after that, the project went into a crazy development, as at the time they couldn't find a good budget for the film, as at the time, Jeffrey Katzenberg was at Disney and he was forbidding the film from being made. There was also disagreements on how the story should be told, with Disney insisting the dinosaurs had to talk, something they didn't want, and it wasn't even finished. And what really sunk it into the water at the time was the fact that Disney was made aware of Jurassic Park coming around the corner and knew of the fact that they had to wait till they felt the effects were up to snuff for the team to make the film that they wanted with Dinosaur. Because all this was taking so long, both left the project, with Phil Tippett going to lend a hand on Jurassic Park, with Disney still trying to get the film pushed forward and spending time trying to understand CGI and how to work with it. As that was going on, they had already selected a director in the form of Ralph Zondag due to his history of working in animation, in particular with Don Bluth, with Eric Leighton working with him later. Once they came on, they had the script rewritten with the help of Robert Nelson Jacobs of Out to Sea fame and John Harrison. But once that was all finished, Disney liked the script and allowed it to go forward with a budget of $127.5 million, and they got their cast together. Now, the one thing that needs to be talked about with the production is how this film is beyond any style of animation ever seen before, because In 1996, while this film was ready to go into production, they had acquired DreamQuest Images, which they would form into their own CGI unit, which they named the Secret Lab. And they did this interesting idea with the CGI, and they actually went out to particular locations, filmed the location. They would later insert the CGI characters later into the parts that they had already filmed in the backdrop. And they had the set built to make it look like prehistoric times. And they worked with various programs to make sure they created some of the most realistic dinosaurs since Jurassic Park, making sure the body was right, the lip syncs were up to snuff, and 80 to 90% of the film was live action backdrops mixed with CGI. They also worked with cameras when shooting the live action portions to make sure it was at the height of an actual dinosaur. It wasn't all fun and games though, as during the production, a crew member was killed and another was wounded when a camera boom struck a power line. This led to a lawsuit, and they had to pay in damages for violating a work safety law. Production eventually finished though, and like always, Disney went in on the marketing. They had a teaser that showcased the opening of the film that played during Toy Story 2. They included that teaser during several kids movies that were coming out around that time, even in their own video releases. I know at their theme park, they renamed one of their own rides to tie into the film and promote it. They had an exhibit for it at Disney Paris. McDonald's, like always, went in on the Happy Meal toys. Toys were made by Mattel. They also got Nestle and Frito-Lay to help promote the film. And the film was finally released on May 19, 2000. Its opening weekend, it became the first movie to knock Gladiator off the #1 spot, which was in its third weekend, grossing over $38 million in a single weekend. The next weekend, it did get knocked to the #3 spot because of Mission Impossible 2, and by the end of June, it made just over its budget, and it's become one of the highest grossing films of the year. Despite the cash rolling in, though, the film received mixed to positive reviews from critics, as on Rotten Tomatoes, it is a 65%. Critics praised the film for its animation, something of which Roger Ebert sang high praise for in his 3 out of 4 star review, but criticized the film for its inclusion of voices. Others criticized the film for feeling predictable. The audience side seems to be more mixed, though, with that side is a 48%, IMDb is a 6.4 out of 10. So once again, I guess it depends on where you look. Now, this is a film that I've heard a lot of people talking about when it was announced. A lot of people who are dinosaur enthusiasts were really excited to see what this film could offer. And I think its animation style caught a few eyes from people because it did look impressive based on the trailers and that teaser that I've seen. And to have Disney take on a film with dinosaurs, I thought was something different from the group. So that Memorial Day weekend, I took a night out to see it along with another film that I'll be reviewing next, Road Trip. I thought this was a fun movie. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I wouldn't say it's one of Disney's best ones, especially considering Disney during the Renaissance has had a better track record, but for what it is, it's a fun movie. And it's a unique experiment for Disney that I thought paid off well for the most part. I'll get into that later, but getting into the film, with the cast in this film, we got D.B. Sweeney from No Man's Land. He was in 8 Men Out. Must be a Charlie Sheen thing because he was in both of those films. And 3 years before this, he was in Spawn. You have Alfre Woodard from Blue Chips and Star Trek First Contact. Ossie Davis from Grumpy Old Men and Dr. Dolittle. You have Max Casella from TV's Doogie Howser. You have Julianna Margulies from TV's ER, and she was in Out for Justice with Steven Seagal, which was her first movie. You also have small roles from people like Hayden Panettiere from A Bug's Life, Joan Plowright from Dennis the Menace and Last Action Hero, and even Samuel E. Wright, who was Sebastian in The Little Mermaid. But getting a little bit more in depth on the plot of this film, the plot is basically we meet this Iguanodon named Aladar, played by D.B. Sweeney, who was born to a similar breed to where he is now. However, an accident led him into the hands of a family of lemurs, with Pilo, played by Alfre Woodard, Yar, played by Ossie Davis, Zinni, played by Max Casella, and Siri, played by Hayden Panettiere, who welcome him into their clan, and he grows up into an older dinosaur. but is still living amongst them. And things start going well until their land gets destroyed by a meteor that comes down that wipes out their land, and this leads to them having to relocate to a new land. So they join a pack of dinosaurs led by this dino named Kron, played by Samuel E. Wright, who starts clashing with them. All the while, Aladar starts getting close to his sister Nera, played by Julianna Margulies. And basically what this culminates to is basically Aladar trying to lead his family and herd to safety, all the while trying to help bind everyone across the group common ground. Will Aladar be able to find common ground with the species that he was born to be with? Or will all the dinos get in a fight that wipes him out quicker than the meteor does? Now, I feel like from a story sense, a lot of people are going to judge this film based purely on the story, and that's what they have been doing, because it gets comparisons to The Land Before Time, which, when you look at it, yeah, it does have some similar beats to it, but I do feel it's unfair to call the film a ripoff, because it does manage to stand on its own 2 feet to make it its own. Especially with the story aspect of the lemurs and how they welcome him into their group and how he basically finds his footing there and he thinks he's a monkey. And I thought that aspect of the story worked, and how he's tied to that group and how he's raised and how he maintains that friendly side. I thought it was a nice change of pace that wasn't about him being around other dinosaurs and learning to grow up with them and kind of have the same mindset as them, trying to be taught to have that in the way that The Land Before Time did it. Or how, like, when they look across, they're taught to be enemies with the other side. Here, it does its own thing. But once the meteor hits, they have to join up with other dinosaurs, and how something can be accomplished if they look beyond one's crew and work together in a situation like this. And just how the film shows them trying to get across to this land as they go through various obstacles, like other dangerous creatures, and the lack of water, and even the tension that Kron and Aladar have, involving his sister. It's all really engrossing, and the film handles that emotional part very well. For the most part. I'll get into why it doesn't later. I don't agree with Roger Ebert, though, who felt the animals shouldn't have talked, as I feel it works with the tone of the film and what they were going for. It's meant to be a fun family movie, and the film, even with some of the humor, which I will get to, has kind of established itself in this sort of world that's not documentary-like, and it's clearly going for a Disney movie. They're clearly going for a Disney version of a dinosaur movie, so I can get behind that. Now, getting to the most part, because there's some aspects of the script that aren't as strong as I feel they could be. In particular, the humor. Not all of it works. Like this gag they have with baby Aladar, where he's born and he pisses on Ossie Davis. That kind of humor I just didn't find funny. Can only get you so far. And they repeat the joke twice. Once at the beginning and once at the end, and I just didn't find it funny. Zinni I did get some laughs out of, as he's playing this sort of love doctor persona. That did give me some chuckles. That being said, I do appreciate that the film isn't relying on modern-day pop culture jokes that make the film annoying. Granted, you have the love monkey moment, but it's not like it's shoved down the viewer's throat to the point of annoying where they want you to get the reference. So I do appreciate that. But there's another problem I have with the script. There's some elements that I feel aren't as explored as much as they could be. Like the romance between Aladar and Nera. I feel it isn't as fleshed out as it could be, because the romance itself just feels crowbarred in there for the sake of having a romance, because there's not really much scenes dedicated to the two. I understand less is more, but the way it does it, it just feels like it's trying to go through those moments as fast as it can to kind of squeeze in that there is some sort of connection, but I don't feel it's strong or leaves you coming back for more, and it doesn't really leave an impression. But with that said, it's a solid enough script and story. I think if they just had some rewrites and fleshed out those parts, I think it could have been much better. but for the most part, it's strong enough as it is. And I think the film works so well is because of its animation. It's a really interesting looking film, and I could see why they were really hyping it up. I think the best way to describe it is, it's like if they gave Who Framed Roger Rabbit a CGI look, but put dinosaurs into it. That's the best way to describe it. It's not entirely like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it does kind of give off that vibe because the blend of real life filming and CGI characters kind of gets that across, but they're blended together beautifully. I like the fact that the areas that they shot in, they made it to look like prehistoric times. The CGI animation on the dinosaurs looks really lifelike in the way they move. The facial animations, which looks really close to a real life dinosaur when the action scenes happen, whether it's the fights or the meteor strikes, they're animated with excitement and eye-catching visuals, especially when the meteor first comes down and how that was shot, and the part with Kron and Aladar having their fight at the end. It's really a beautiful looking film. It's just hard to turn away. And it should look good. Apparently Hans Bacher had a hand in this film. Hans Bacher, this is the same guy who worked on Balto. So of course it's going to look beautiful. And just little things like the various shots that they were able to get out of the film that showcase the land of which these dinosaurs are in. It's a beautiful looking land. The fact that they got as much as they did shot, like 80 to 90%, I have to say is a real accomplishment. So I gotta say, I really respect the fact that they put their heart into blending the two and making them look as good as they can. On top of that, the score by James Newton Howard is beautifully done, really blends itself into the world of which this movie is set in, adds a sense of beauty to the atmosphere as well as peacefulness to it. The action-heavy moments with the music play really well. It's not heavy on modern-day music, despite the trailer having that, which I appreciate. So, yeah, I could see why Disney was excited to show off the technology, and it was used to a T perfectly with this film. And all around, just really create a really well-made film. And the cast I also find to be really solid. I will say this, though. When it comes to the lead, D.B. Sweeney is fine, but in all honesty, I would have really preferred someone else as the lead. I don't feel he's bad, but I don't feel DB has the presence of a leading man. While he works well with more of the calm moments and the happy moments, like the opening with the lemurs and when he's playing with them, it's when the film asks him to get with the more emotionally driven moments is where I feel his performance suffers. I know that he's worked with more emotional stuff when you look at his filmography, but I don't know if he's not used to voice acting, or maybe he just didn't, I don't want to say didn't care, because I'm sure there's a lot of actors who come in and they care about a role, that while you have those that will take it for the paycheck, but I don't know, here, I just didn't feel his delivery is as strong as it could be, because there's a lot of moments in the film that are supposed to be emotional, but he comes across as dry and a bit too soft, especially when a moment requires him to go beyond that area. And I think that he's not strong enough to carry it on his own, because when he's on screen with the more experienced actors, say like
Alfre Woodard,
Max Casella, or even Ossie Davis, they help him carry the emotional side of the film as he has somebody to work off, especially when the script asks that of him. And at times he feels like he's blown off the screen by those two. Like I said, the lighthearted moment is where it works. I just think it could have been better had someone else taken on this role. Someone who could have balanced both the funny, comedic side and the more emotional moments. But for what he had to do, I'm repeating myself, he's not bad in the role. There's just a few areas where I feel he could have been better. I will say, though,
Alfre Woodard,
I liked a lot is
Pylo.
I thought she played a good motherly figure to Alador. I thought she delivered that side of the character really well. I like her moments with Aladar, kind of being that mother figure. I thought they had a very sweet sort of relationship with the two. So,
Alfre Woodard.
did well. Ossie Davis, he's fine. He's just the angry husband. But for what he's asked to do, he does the best that he can. Max Casella, I do have fun with as Zinni. I can understand if people find him annoying, but I like Max for what he was going for with the character, this sort of ladies' man and a monkey sort of vibe. But he made it work. He wasn't as annoying as the character could be. He wasn't just there for those moments. He has moments with Alidor that kind of display a genuine friendship that is delivered perfectly in this film. So, Julianna Margulies, I also thought did a good job. I like her as an actress, and she does a good job playing the sister to Kron, where she wants to remain loyal to her brother, but she sees where Alidor is coming from. And even with the moments that are as limited as they are between the two, Julianna does what she can with what she's asked. Samuel E. Wright surprised me. I thought he did a great job as the sort of antagonist, I guess you can call him that. I don't want to say he's a villain because he means well, because he wants to get everybody to safety and thinks he knows what is going on, but wants to get around it, but he's making things worse for his crew. But I do think he did well with the very demanding, in-your-face presence as a sort of drill sergeant, kind of going for the walk first, ask questions later that his character was supposed to have. But you get the idea he means well. And I think he does that well. It's surprising, too, being that he's mostly known for Sebastian from The Little Mermaid. And it's nice to see him play more of a villain that's full of himself. And I think he did that well. Besides that, other actors, you got Della Reese as the grandma. She's fine. She's just the sassy grandma with attitude, not really much to say. I know Billy West has a few of the voices of the dinosaur in the background, along with Darren Norris. Hayden Panettiere, she's alright. She's just doing the character she did in A Bug's Life, but with a lemur. But other than that, it's a fairly solid cast, despite there being some chinks in the armor with some of them. But in terms of an experiment for Disney, I think it's a solid experiment that I feel succeeds in more ways than it fails. I already touched upon my cons with the film, so we're going to move to the bottom line. Now, some may look at Dinosaur and say it's cliched. It may not bring anything new to the table, but I feel Dinosaur is a solid dinosaur stomping romp that offers up a great deal of fun and heart. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check out Disney's Dinosaur. It gives the kids some dinosaur action to hold on till Jurassic Park 3 is ready. So, when it comes down to it, my final rating for Disney's Dinosaur is an 8.5 out of 10. And it deserves it. Therefore gets the Alexandra seal of approval. It would get a 9 had they just fixed a tiny bit of the script problems and kind of gave some more stuff to the characters. But other than that, I still had a really great time with this film, and it really shows what Disney is capable of, and it makes me excited to see what comes next in their library. So, definitely a fun ride you should check out if you're into dinosaurs or Disney. But yeah, that is my review for Disney's Dinosaur, and next time I am going to do a review on Road Trip. That'll be coming soon. And then I'm going to review Titan AE, since I am still working on my review of Mission Impossible. That's being written up now. And also working on the Mission Impossible 2 review. That's coming as well. But I also have a few other things I want to review. I want to review Pokemon 2000. That'll be coming. And I have a few other things I plan to check out soon. I plan to check out The Patriot. I plan to check out... That'll get a review. I also want to check out Shaft. Scary Movie is one I'm really pumped to check out. So that'll be coming. And I'm also going to be finishing up my Let's Play of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I'm close to the final level, so that'll be coming. But there's a lot down the pipeline that is coming. For right now, though, I will see you guys later. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Disney's Dinosaur. Do you guys enjoy the film? Do you guys like it? I'd love to know you guys' thoughts down below, whether or not you guys enjoy the film or not. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.